Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're talking why the Imperium must trust Guilliman. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself, without spoilers. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, regardless of whatever tragedy or threat currently faces the galaxy, one of the biggest talking points will always remain Roboute Guilliman. Since his return, Guilliman has assumed full leadership of the Imperium of Mankind. To be honest, he's been pretty brutal about it to boot, naming himself Imperial Regent and Lord Commander. He then purged any opposition against him that remained within the High Lords of Terror. To be fair, he did have a lot to be angry about, looking at what had become of the Imperium over the 10,000 years he'd been gone. But it's undeniable his reclaiming of power was ruthless. Now, for all Guilliman's swift repossession of power, or perhaps maybe because of it, opposition and resentment of the returned Primarch has spread somewhat throughout the Imperium. Not amongst the people, the ordinary citizenry of Mankind's empire. They view Guilliman as a saviour, a figure of legend returned to life, a miracle gift from the Emperor. But instead, the people in power, the ones blessed or perhaps cursed with real knowledge, senior officers amongst the Militarum, the Imperial Navy, governors, ranking members of the Ecclesiarchy, even still people within the Imperial Palace, the heart of the machine that runs the Imperium. History alone tells them the Primarchs ruined the galaxy. They and their legions brought the Imperium to the brink of ruin. And as far as they're concerned, the Imperium has survived well enough for 10,000 years since they've been gone. And what did they see Guilliman do as soon as he returned anyway? Brutally cleanse out about half the High Lords of Terror, reveal these strange new Primaris Marines, and then essentially wield them as legions. The terrors of the past. As crazy as it may feel to some of us to be wary of a loyal Primarch, if you look at just the simple facts, you have to say you can understand where they are coming from. And let's be real here, Guilliman is doing himself no favours in some of his actions, such as the expansion of Ultramar, the seizing of control and governance into Astartes' power. The people are right to be wary. However, the more chaos continues its advance, the more the galaxy crumbles, the more the narrative of the Arcs of Omen moves forward, the more it's really reached the point now. The Imperium simply has to trust Guilliman. They have no other option. Regardless of all their fears, all their concerns, the Imperium simply cannot afford to argue amongst itself anymore. They have lost half their empire, half the galaxy. I think we're so used to it now, we just kind of take Imperium Nihilus for granted. But let's just let that sink in. Half of the galaxy. Imperium Nihilus is truthfully gone. A mess. Lost to the darkness. No structure, no command, no communication. Dante's appointment as Warden is more symbolic now than anything else. The situation has only gotten worse by the day. That half of the Imperium is lost, no matter what way you look at it. Never In my wildest dreams did I ever expect to see the day. If the Imperium continues to squabble amongst itself, if it continues to play games, forcing Guilliman to play politics, holding its breath each and every time he calls together a sizable force of Astartes, it will quite simply lose Sanctus as well. There's no doubt about it. As we know, Guilliman had to call an end to the first phase of his Indomitus crusades, due simply to the political pressure, scattering the remaining Astartes out into chapters. Yet it's also undeniable the Indomitus fleets were the only thing that saved the Imperium from the brink of destruction, that managed to stem the overwhelming tide of Chaos's advance. And it's clear Guilliman intends to launch more. He needs to launch more, to take that sledgehammer blow right to the face of Chaos. The only way he's going to be able to do that is with complete trust. If Imperium Nihilus is ever able to be saved, to be reclaimed in the name of the Emperor, then quite simply Guilliman can't abandon these crusades because a few people are worried about his actions, the power he is wielding in force. Now, as I said earlier, I am not a supporter of all of Guilliman's actions. In fact, I think many of these are proving right the accusations of Lion L. Johnson. Guilliman's expansion of Ultramar, not just to its Great Crusade era days, but ultimately beyond even that, may be seeded with good intent, but it clearly can be seen as self-serving. And worse still, no matter if the governors of the worlds who are being absorbed by this new Ultramar welcome it or oppose it, their powers are ultimately being given to Guilliman's appointed Astartes, which is only fueling the fires of all his doubters even more so. We've spoken about this before, and it's clear in many ways Guilliman is his own worst enemy, that at times he seems to be completely oblivious to the wider picture, just why these people's doubts are in truth well founded. It's the perfect example of how and why no Primarch was supposed to work alone. Why there was 20 of them. Because all the brothers not only shared their natures and traits with each other, but they countered each other as well. They stopped the other's natures from going too far. They kept each other in check. What did Guilliman do the second the Ruin Storm blocked out the rest of the galaxy during the Heresy? He started building his own empire. It was exactly what Malcador the Sigillite predicted he would do, because he knew the Primarch's natures as if they were his own sons. The situation could be said to be very similar now, a history repeated in a way. However, the difference is here, the Imperium simply cannot afford to argue about these things. It's lost too much already. Guilliman is its only hope. Abaddon has outsmarted, outwitted every defender the Imperium's had for centuries. Only when it was too late did Belisarius Cawl see the truth of Abaddon's grand plan. Since Guilliman's return, they have someone who not only matches Abaddon's mind, but, in all honesty, far exceeds it. I think even the most loyal Abaddon fan would have to admit that. One of the first utterances out of Abaddon's mind within the first chapter of the Arcs of Omen campaign was how frustrated he is being away from battle, having to spend those hours and days poring over star charts and reports. Yes, Guilliman can understand that feeling. Yes, he can feel that frustration too. But if he had to juggle the entire galaxy at a campaign level for a millennia, quite simply he would. And he would do so at a level that Abaddon quite simply wouldn't match. Sure, Perturabo is out there. Fulgrim has and could outsmart Guilliman within a single campaign, but they aren't the War Master. Only Abaddon commands the entirety of chaos, or at least enough to count. So yes, Guilliman is making mistakes. Yes, his nature is his own worst enemy, but he's the best hope they've got. If Guilliman wants to expand Ultramar's borders, rather than fear it, the Imperium needs to understand it. If he wants to have Astartes control, to survive, they need to cooperate with it. It's a bit like a double-edged sword. The powers that be might not like Guilliman's actions, but to truly confront the alternative could well be to realise defeat. Now, of course, that counter to Guilliman back in the Heresy could well be about to return again now. Lion L. Johnson. And it remains to be seen which kind of Lion we'll get if he does so. Will we get a changed Lion? A man who has felt the pain of the Emperor's loss, of the fall of his homeworld Caliban? Or will we get the same L. Johnson who brooks no challenge to the Emperor's authority, who was a hair's breadth from ordering a planetary invasion of Macragge, and had absolutely no doubt he could take Guilliman out if he needed to? Of course, I'd love to see the Lion we all know and love, who you'd expect to be extremely PO'd at returning to find the Imperium half lost, and Guilliman once again building an empire amongst the carnage, seemingly seizing on the opportunity. A Lion who would immediately put a stop to that, and put the Imperium back on the offensive. I mean, can you imagine the Lion's face when he hears someone call Guilliman the Imperial Regent? Oh, that would be a show. But again, the truth is, if the Imperium is to survive, the Lion too needs to place his complete trust in Guilliman. Just as the Imperium couldn't afford to have dissenters within the ranks, it can't afford to have arguing Primarchs. The Lion may be the better warrior, and arguably a better battlefield strategist than his brother, but Guilliman manages empires. He builds them, and better on every level than his brother. There is a reason Ultramar remained the jewel of the Imperium, even 10,000 years after Guilliman's loss. Even if the Lion returns, even if the Imperium doesn't like Guilliman's actions, it's still in him the Imperium's true hope must lie. And in order for him to achieve that ambition, whether they agree with his actions or not, whether the Lion agrees with all of his actions or not, at the end of the day, they have to trust him. I guess the questions at the end of the day are just what kind of Lion are we going to get? And is there enough faith and hope left within the Imperium of Mankind to just trust the Lord Commander? As always everyone, what do you think? Can the Imperium place its differences aside to simply place their trust in the Lord Commander, the man who is best suited to bring the Imperium victory? With the advances of chaos only getting even worse with every day that transpires, the time is now for the next Indomitus Crusades to be launched. And there's just no way Guilliman can abandon these crusades, because the politicians out there don't like the power he wields, the visible representation of the legions returned. Do you think we'll see the next Indomitus Crusade launch? Will we see a more universal acceptance? Or despite everything, despite the danger and threat, will there still be those fearing the Primarch? Do you agree that regardless of these fears and flaws in Guilliman, that's the only hope the Imperium has is to just place their trust in him? Or do you feel opposing Guilliman's actions is actually the better hope? That the egos of the Primarchs need to be checked from time to time. As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. With that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.